Perfect. Hey, everybody. Welcome. It is Wednesday. It is ArchaeoX. I have a special guest host. Christy is still out of town, but she sends her best regards to all of us. And to you, we have Michael Cremo's book release coming up on the 2nd of July. It's incredible. Michael Cremo's latest book, author of Forbidden Archaeology, Human De-Evolution, a bunch of other stuff. Member of the International Archaeological Congress, among other things. He's a legend. He is a great friend of the show. So there's a couple exciting pieces. One, Christy and I will be hosting a new podcast with Michael Cremo. And that you guys should be looking for literally sooner than later. We're talking possibly July. And that is something exciting. ArchaeoX will be hosting the Michael Cremo book release on this site, on archaeox.com. We will be live. This is only $10. You can also, if you register now at Extreme Human Antiquities, and we'll have links for that up later at ArchaeoX this week, there will be a $10 fee for the webinar. However, if you want to pay, you can pre-order his new book, and you can get that and access to the webinar. This is a private event Christy and I are hosting. It will be an hour of Michael talking about this new project and a half hour of question and answer, give or take. Either way, it's really something I invite everybody to go to Extreme Human Antiquities, Michael Cremo's website, and sign up, get a ticket. We will have links for that shortly, next couple days, on archaeox.com. In the meantime, have a giant bone in front of me. We are going to get into this with our special guest. And again, Christy says hi to everyone. But this here is Mark Sears.
Thank you, Jared. And first of all, most of all, thank you for inviting me onto the show.
Yeah.
And what a deal. What a prize. Oh. Yes, the Mastodon bone is what we call it, the Mastodon jawbone. Mastodon elephants extinct over 11,000 years ago. This particular bone was found in the Arkansas River in 1990 by my father, John G. Sears, on the Arkansas River in Tulsa at 51st and Riverside.
Okay, so wait. Now this is a Tulsa thing, everyone. So 50, they're really good at cross streets here, and specifically cross streets. So where in reference to?
I would say the reference
downtown
would be straight up Riverside Drive, heading south to the Interstate I-44, which is 51st.
So this is basically downtown, kind of.
It would be south of downtown, approximately
like 2 miles.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we got 2 miles, but basically this is a very populated city area that basically you're seeing not normally an entire. For everyone watching, I'm going to pause so you can see my hand. This is a, like if you look at a tooth, this is a massive jawbone, but the entire skull was in the river, just laying there. And how did your grandpa find it?
It would be my father, John Sears. So John had walked.
Look at how young I just accused you of being.
I get that. That happens sometimes, but that's okay. But John has been walking the river from 21st and Riverside to 51st and Riverside for 30 years, from 1980 to 1996. So make that 26 years. And he had a flipping stick. I meant to bring that. But he would walk the river looking for artifacts, looking for different things. In fact, on this particular jawbone, you see the 2 holes down there. Those 2 holes are just like the human jawbone. They actually have the arteries.
Oh, yeah. So what you're referring to is
the
these
nerves run through there.
These holes right here.
Right. Arteries and nerves run through here to feed this.
A big one
jawbone.
on the other side.
Right.
It's big.
So he found that in 1990. He found hundreds of artifacts in the Arkansas River, as well as in Arkansas and Colorado, where they lived for 10 years. But he was out on a daily hunt, and this bone was buried. All he could see is one of the holes there that you see. And
one of these holes were just sticking up.
That's all he saw. Everything else was covered. And go ahead.
No. And then don't slow down. So he's got a stick and he's looking.
He poked that, didn't move. So he went down, got on his knees, and started excavating. And then he saw the first tooth. And the mastodon jaw and the tooth, the molars, are unlike the woolly mammoth. The woolly mammoth are more rounded. These are more jagged because the mastodon liked branches. It chewed on branches.
Ate everything.
Yep. And so he found that, and of course everybody was amazed. He had it analyzed shortly thereafter. It was discovered it was 10 to 15,000 BC.
Wow.
Just recently we had it reanalyzed, and the same conclusion was 10 to 15,000 BC. Not fully fossilized, this bone, this jawbone. It actually has soft tissue in it.
Right now.
Correct.
It has soft tissue.
Yes, sir. So
they're cloning things.
Well, they are. I think the dire wolf was just recently made the news.
Yeah, on 2,000 acres. They have.
Yes.
Here's the thing. It has dire wolf genealogy in it, but it's really a wolf I looked this one up.
Right.
It's actually got 98% something regular wolf.
Right.
But it happens to be like, basically it's dire wolf light.
Well, right. And that would be my question. How dire was it?
Nah. Oh, it's never going to be. That's not going to be never not funny.
No.
But this is functional for everyone watching too. This, again, scale. Here's my fist at one end or on top, or like a hand on it. This thing is really big. It's really heavy. And I don't think it really matters how big this mastodon really was, because it must have been incredible. I mean, you carry this in, you got to use 2 arms. This is a heavy piece of jaw. That whole skull, this is tragic. What happened to the skull?
Okay. So Dad found the jawbone. Traveling salesman, as you're on the road. He marked where it was, went back I believe a week later, and discovered that the skull was gone and most likely had went down the river. I never heard of anyone finding it. I can tell you that. It's still.
So here's the thing. Actually, no, I never thought about this, but we could go look for it, right?
We could. Oh yeah. Now, there's been a 100-year flood since then here.
Look, so famously in Tulsa, there is a truck that moved down the river and no one's taking it out. So if the river can move a truck, it can likely move a mastodon head. However, that's got to be a lot heavier than this thing.
Correct. I believe, as John put it, he saw the top part of the skull. So he didn't know how much skull was there, but he believed probably a good portion of it.
For sure, it washed away.
Well, that's the story.
Is there a chance that he just forgot where it was?
No.
Dang it.
He was not that. I take after him. I'm a steel trap. I would forget nothing.
So this means that this bone is only survivor of whatever this, maybe whether it drowned or not. This thing is the only piece of evidence left of what is clearly a large beast in the river that, again, the bones could still be there.
They could be, and they probably are. I can tell you this bone was found in 1990. Dad and Mom in 1996 decided they wanted to move to Colorado. They bought a place in Nathrop, which is south of Buena Vista, west of Colorado Springs, built a nice, beautiful log home. And so it's traveled, this bone with my dad has traveled from the Arkansas in Tulsa to the Arkansas, Colorado, which Leadville, Colorado is the headwaters to the Arkansas River that we see here in Tulsa, which is brown water. We call it brown water here.
Oh, brown. Why?
Well, Colorado, the water's clear blue, but as it moves down through the states,
sedimentary,
it gets into Keystone Lake, and there's a lot of clay in the lake, and therefore the water's brown. But from there, they lived there 10 years. This bone traveled to Virgin, Utah.
Yeah.
They bought a little 2-acre farm or place out there. So the bone stayed there for about 2 years, and then made its journey to Las Vegas, Nevada. And only neighbors saw it, nobody else. So we're now breaking this bone out, giving some educational value to this, and hopefully, clone one at one point.
It's so fascinating.
Do you think that we could possibly stud the DNA?
There's soft tissue.
Yeah.
So you would think theoretically that, there's soft tissue. And that was the big complaint about dinosaur bones. Right. And also freaked people out. About 6 years ago, I'm wrapping up my book. I know it's my book about to come out. And news went a little ballistic on the fact that there was a Tyrannosaurus Rex found with soft tissue. Do you remember that?
Yes, correct.
And it's like one of those things you don't forget, right?
Right.
So they find soft tissue in a T-Rex, and so there's a problem with that. It means that they're saying that soft tissues, there's after 30,000 years, that's rough. There's no way, pretty much after 30,000, right? But then they're saying, well, maybe it could go to 50,000. And it's like, okay, but the T-Rex is supposed to be millions of years old. So problem, if you have soft tissue in a T-Rex, that means A, you can clone it, and B, that means T-Rexes and all other dinosaurs will around sooner, which makes everyone who's a fan of Dinotopia happy.
Right.
And so we're Mastodons and T-Rexes still contemporaries and this, by the way, is in North America where they found it, I think.
Right.
So what do you do with the soft tissue then? Are we 1% dire wolf? Can we go to 100% T-Rex or 100% Mastodon? I think we need more tissue. We need these genetic samples. Hey, have you ever looked into selling it? Or I mean, not the bones, but have you thought about selling the soft tissue?
We thought we would stud the soft tissue out. Like you stud a horse
Yeah.
out. So we would stud the DNA out.
I would pay to how you milk a jawbone. I'm not sure. But
right.
Yeah.
But
drills.
Is stud the right word to use? I'm not sure. That's how they stud horses, right? They stud them out.
Well, they definitely use, but they use it in a surgical syringe sort of way.
Well, not quite, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, well, I don't know if using a drill would be is equal to studying a horse as to.
Well, I
you
guess
don't usually drill the studs, right?
No, you don't. You don't drill a stud.
That's a different bar.
Certainly.
Okay.
But anything is possible. If it's not impossible, it's possible, right? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and you know what? For everyone watching, this is movable. It's still shedding after all these years. Like when you pick it up, there's like a little bit of stuff that comes off it. I don't know why, but there is you can see where the gum line was on this side. And I kind of, on one hand, want to turn around. On the other hand, I don't want to mess with the tomfoolery of it. But I think on this side, you can see the gum line. I didn't ask you this. I made an assumption the first time you brought this. How much further did this jaw bone go? Is this almost the whole thing?
What you see right here is what I've been told, and it looks to be correct. We have 4, 8, 12 points, therefore 3 molars.
Okay.
I believe and I haven't done the full research. There's probably more.
So there'd be one on this side.
Correct.
Okay. So but this does represent the full jawbone. Correct. Pretty much. It's pretty, like, again, you look at the teeth, it's, I wish I had a scale for people that would be on a finger, but this is a big tooth. This is bigger than my thumb. And I'm not saying I have the smallest thumbs, but this is,
it would take 12 gauge rope to floss those teeth.
You'd have to get the mouth open first. And I don't think it was big on that. It was it was a sugar-free diet.
Certainly. Yes.
I mean, branches must really branch. That's like kind of dental floss if it's a small enough branch.
Certainly.
Of course, it has to get there between the tooth, and it looks like you could it's full of like a tooth jam. Even after all these years, I'm not sticking my finger in there, but it does look like there was some spiders living. So, but you could, I think, floss with a pen. Right. I think that's a decent space.
What about a guitar string?
Ouch! But yeah, for them, yes. No. This is it's so impressive. Have you ever had it valued?
I'm going to say no. My point being is it's priceless.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, not that I think some people find things and they're like, hey, what, because you hear of like Nicolas Cage buying a T-Rex.
Right.
I don't know why T-Rex keeps coming up, but I really didn't mean for that to happen. But still, it's like you've got this can't assign a value to XYZ, and here's this.
And interestingly enough, as you mentioned that, I've shown the bone only to a handful of folks, but that being maybe 20. The first question is, how much are you going to sell it for? That's the very first question. I'd say 9 out of 10. How much are you going to sell it for? I've
looked at this thing 3 times. This is the first time it came up, and that's only because of the podcast, because everyone's watching on the camera, and it's like, hey, what's the, you see something like this, and you're thinking, okay, well, it's like finding another archaeological, like a golden monkey, and so the first thing is, am I keeping it? Am I selling it?
Well, the first question is, how much are you going to sell it for? Second question would be, what are you going to do with it? Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? Hey, Jeff from up north. Good evening. That's a friend of our show.
Excellent. Good evening.
And, not to throw Jeff into this yet, but he's a metal enthusiast, historian, podcaster. He's a pretty interesting guy, and he has a habit of walking around Upper Michigan and having really good luck.
Peninsula?
Yep,
Peninsula?
UP. Yep.
Oh, there we go. Right.
And so Michigan for everyone out there, UP. But this is obviously not the kind of stuff he's been finding, but he goes out looking for the copper mining area. There was about the news article recently about them finding Michigan copper in England.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So Jeff is up into that area. There's in fact, it just recently has happened, but the Ancient American Preservation's Artifact Preservation Society of Upper Michigan that works on pointing out to people for 20 years. I've been trying to point out copper from Michigan was in Europe, was all over for the Bronze Age and the Phoenicians. And,
right.
And so the conference gets held. That's where I met Jeff. Obviously you haven't found anything like this yet, Jeff, but hey.
But I like the word copper because this Mastodon could have used some copper in its teeth in the day.
Yeah.
There were some issues with the cavities.
This guy did not live for a young age. I mean, yeah, the upper teeth are worn off in the middle.
Right. Oh, yes.
Clearly this guy was eating a lot, and that doesn't look comfortable. That looks really painful.
It certainly does.
That interior, have they described, for what people aren't seeing, is that the molars have been ground down in the interior. What root, I guess, that's how they determine age as well. So at some level, the root
and how worn down the molar is.
I can't believe now that I think about what I'm just saying that I touched it.
Yeah. That's amazing. You have to see it to believe it, right?
Yeah.
You can see it on TV or you can see a picture of it, but to see something live, touch it,
and
smell it, feel it.
And if this is going to be for as much as it's moving, I might turn it around for everyone to look at the other arterial dissection.
Yeah.
Or not as dissection. There's no artery. There's no whatever. So we're going to turn it. This thing is extremely heavy and thousands of years old. So let's not break it, right? So here it is again. Okay.
So I can explain, as we were talking about the two portals in the front, the holes where the nerves and arteries are. That is designed just as our jaw works as well as human jaws.
Just extremely huge. So yeah, what you're talking about, I think my mic is up. All right. So this hole, which is like 3 fingers wide, that hole would have been the main feed for both arterial and nerve.
Correct.
And so then that funnels down.
That fed the jawline.
That's incredible. So there's a tube system through the whole thing and up to the teeth.
Correct. And one thing we did learn about a month ago, the teeth are solid. Those teeth are solid. They're not loose, and that refers to soft tissue in place. In other words, it's live tissue.
That's crazy. So there's live tissue in the teeth.
In the root of the teeth. And it could be in the teeth itself.
Okay. If everyone who's watching, I just want to say hello. We are guesting here with Mark Sears. We are not, of course, totally thrilled. We're missing, of course, our co-host, Christy. She will be back next week. We'll be doing this together. Right now, what we have is a skull. Well, not the skull. We have the jawbone of the skull of a mastodon. What?
Prehistoric elephant.
10 to 16,000 years. 12
10 to 15,000.
10 to 15,000.
Right.
I'm off. So this thing found in the river locally. For everyone listening again, Michael Cremo's newest book, First Time in 7 Years, his private webinar is going to be hosted at our site at RKEOX. And that will be the 2nd of July, which is coming up real fast. You can buy tickets at extremehumanantiquity.com. You can also order one of his books, which are available, which will ship to you before. And when I say I mean the book will be available to you before other people. And that's coming up. In the meantime, back to the skull or jawbone of the skull. There is another piece. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's what's missing up here.
Correct.
And I wanted to bring up the anterior tissue So so is the bone, is this
The
marrow?
this piece that's missing is about 6 to 7 inches long and about 2 inches
So
high.
it puts it up about that
Correct.
higher.
It's now currently being analyzed for soft tissue.
So currently, just so that I understand what we're looking at interior, this dark stuff, which you guys can see on screen, if you're looking at the camera, you guys are looking at the screen. This is actual, what part of the bone is this? The interior. I mean, is it supposed to be solid all the way through? And this
Correct.
so it's just
and
the color.
It is solid. Up top, you can see where the bone has deteriorated. It's been out
Right.
of the water since 1990. The reason these scientists, archaeologists, this particular bone is not fully fossilized because it wasn't underwater long enough. It kept going down the river. It wasn't buried long enough. To get full fossilization, they need to be underwater for a long time. So
this has happened, this kind of deterioration. It was solid bone and it turned
Right.
into this. All right. So that kind of shows there's I did a whole lecture series. I went to a whole lecture series about down and dirty, how dinosaurs did it and how to become a fossil.
Right.
Because it's a rare thing.
It is.
People don't understand that it's not a common thing to be fossil. Most everything turns to dust. So it's rare that this whole thing even exists.
Correct.
Let alone everything just turns to dust. So the circumstances for this thing to be preserved are pretty unique. You got to wonder, what if the head floated downstream at some point and the rest of the body is somewhere else? Like, what if it sunk sooner?
Certainly. And what would have happened if John G. Sears would have woken up 5 minutes late that morning and that was gone? He didn't find it in the river. So it was unique in timing that he found it.
His eyesight, though, to just see what was sticking out of the river.
Correct.
And he was just compelled to dig. He just thought there's something there.
Curious, always curious.
What was he like?
Well, John, he was a riddler. John,
I'm out.
I remember a riddler as a child. A birthday gift. In other words, if we wanted to get a birthday gift, he would write down a riddle, usually 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of a riddle. And you would eventually find your present in the attic, or maybe in his car, or maybe in the hubcap.
He's always playing games.
Correct.
All right. That's really fun. What else? Wait, hold on. What do you do for a living besides fly?
I compose.
Okay. So then
composition is what I'm trying to say.
What happens with, where does your mind go when you have these kind of life experiences?
Well, that's the beauty. I don't have to think about it. It's a thought process that I don't have to think about. To write a song or to find a bone, right? It's a process and it's timing.
Yeah. And I don't want to get off the bones, because in taking this thing in, how many universities have seen it and how many are they surprised to see it?
0 universities.
Okay. Would they want to keep it?
Well, that's been thought. The topic has come up. Yes.
Okay. They've requested it.
Yes.
Okay. So they know it's an important piece. Correct. This is important.
Right.
So there's not many of them here.
This is the only one I've seen in here, or Utah or Colorado. I mean, as far as my traveling experiences, which is fairly vast.
Wait, hold on. I should have started with this. This thing is that rare that this Mastodon jawbone found is one of the only ones in 5 states.
I could not concur on that, but I will say this. Does your neighbor have one?
No.
Does your other neighbor have one?
No.
Okay.
Can't even Grand Tupperware.
Yeah, right. That's the first one I've seen. Now, certainly they exist.
Right. And obviously there was mastodons here. So it's not like they were herding creature. Well, that's our assumptions, right? This one was the one loner,
right?
Or, the one oddball, or, this is the one that, again, it's so interesting. Clearly this thing wasn't that young or was always really hungry, because those bones do not look so good.
Right.
You got to wonder too, because from the look of the jaw, this looks like the right side.
It does.
And when you look at the wear lines, it's kind of interesting to think, mid molar, this one's so worn down on the top, and this one's starting to be worn down, but you can tell the ones in the back look great.
You can tell there was one here.
Right. So you got to wonder how bad the front, I wonder
back here.
Yeah. I wonder if it was constantly pulling at branches or whatever. So the main diet was branches. Well, and I wonder if that would account for maybe the pull down, or the why it was so more worn down was pulling them down before even eating.
Right.
I'm sorry. See, now I'm digressing like an
And
anthropologist.
if you'll look at a mastodon elephant, the ivory tusks that come up are extremely curved, and they come up pretty
tight,
direct and vertical.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to reach a branch.
Right.
You can't have stuff in your way.
Right. So amazing creature, of course, and what a find, and it was a timing deal.
Why the flood? Why did it wash away? It's insane that it was there for who knows how many thousands of years and it washes away. Any theories on it? Why it washed?
Theory would be they have a keystone. They have a keystone dam, and the Arkansas River flows into the Keystone Dam. The water gets high.
Okay.
It was like 2 years ago, I believe, in Tulsa here, a 100-year flood came around, and the river broke the banks, hit the streets, and things, flood, and they roll down the river.
It's incredible. So now there are people over the years, over the decades, that are aware it exists in the academic community, and they're fascinated by it, but you haven't had any demands for it.
Well, there hasn't been much exposure.
Okay.
The exposure's been like
now that we're putting out in front of thousands of people.
When you leave your house at 18 and come home 30 years later, and your school books are still in the same spot in the basement, that's where this has been for the last 30 years.
In the basement by the school books?
Yeah.
So for everyone watching, the first time I saw this bone, Mark was generous enough to bring it in, and we were looking at it in a coffee shop, which is crazy. We were able to lay it on a desk, and it was a table, and we turned it into a Mastodon table, and the entire coffee shop, people got to come up and take a look at this thing. I don't think they realized they're at basically the Minnesota James Ward Bell Museum touch and see. For them to be able to look at this, I don't think anybody was aware of. Everyone, I mean, it's fascinating. It's huge when you come up and look at this thing. For those looking, this is not a small structure, but that means that's one of the first times anyone's been able to really, other than you privately showing it a few times, this thing has just not been out in public.
No, it is not.
So it goes maybe 10 to 15,000 years, and then another 30.
Correct.
Unexposed.
And it made 3 moves along the way.
Okay. I think we should go out and try to find the rest of it.
I concur. And I'm curious to do that. And summertime is a great time. The rains have let up. Our 30 days of rain and 28 inches or actually 2 months of rain, 28 inches. The river's full now. It's stirred up. There's stuff that are still being driven down the river by the currents. And whether we find this, you'll find something.
He did see the skull.
Correct. 100%.
Why did he? Okay. This is heavy. Not a dumb question. Why didn't he take any other bones that he saw there?
For those same reasons you're leading to right here. He goes, this was hard enough just to excavate, get it out one day type deal, excitement. Yeah. I did see the skull, and imagine the sheer excavating part of it, let alone retrieving it from the river.
How far into the river was it?
It was on the bank.
It was on the bank?
Yeah.
And then it got washed.
Yeah, it did.
Is it a deep river?
As rivers go, I would say, I'd say 20. It depends on how much water's in it.
The reason I'm asking is because this is the kind of thing that we don't want to get busted up by rudders.
No, we don't. That's absolutely correct. There's no rudders in this particular river.
I'm going to ask the question now first. Say we find it. What do you think that thing's worth? Huh?
Well, I can imagine a jawbone. What about a skull? A skull's got some weight to it. So is it by the pound or by the ounce? I mean, I don't know how,
By the age.
By the age.
More importantly, it's like, yeah, okay, look, if we find it. Oh, wait. So has anyone offered to date this?
Not yet. But someone has actually hugged it,
kissed
it, and wanted a piece of the decayed tissue.
Okay. I'm not sure why.
He was a native Indian. It brought him to tears.
Really?
Yeah. Just recently, or 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Why? What was his connection
brought him
to it?
Tears. It brought him back to his heritage.
Yeah, understandable. I was wondering because there's so many ways that so many different people.
By the way, his name's Bobby Rubidoux.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Mostly, whatever you're feeling, the reality is that sometimes I think certain people have connections to things that I do think we need to look into and not dismiss. Sometimes, whether it's an individual object or whatever their origin story is for their feelings on something, what's important, I think a lot of times is we do have these larger consciousness and connections that we again, they might come through spiritually through a certain methodology, through a certain religion, through a certain culture, but I think there's something to it that they're actually experiencing. So the connection and whatever's really going on for him with this bone, it's got to be really fascinating to feel on the inside or like in real time.
It was his first Mastodon jawbone he'd ever seen in his life.
I think this is the first one I've ever seen like this up close. Well, look, I've been to a few natural history museums between Minnesota and the Smithsonian's and the museums all that are in Washington. I don't think, though, I've ever touched, held, or moved.
Well, could I interject?
Yeah.
Jared, what's the oldest thing you've ever touched?
Good question.
That you know of. I mean,
let's see. Let me think about this. And that's a great question. Actually, I may have it within touch.
Well,
okay, it's off screen, so I'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
If I say this, everybody's going to want me to go get it. Okay, I hypothetically, let's just say hypothetical,
right.
And let's say it's a replica.
Hypothetical or alleged?
In fact, it's right here. Everyone's going to be, if I throw this out there and don't put it on screen, I'm probably going to get in trouble, and you're going to be surprised. You're really going to be surprised. So everybody, bear with me for a minute. I'm going to grab this object.
Is this the oldest thing you've ever touched?
Yes.
Okay.
And ironically, I did not have this planned, or only you would come up with this question, by the way.
Well, thank you.
This would definitely be a Mark question. So for all of you watching, and let's see, hello. What am I? Oldest is somebody being funny? Okay, too funny.
Not on your body.
No, listen. Oldest thing you've touched? Rocks. Yeah, you funny guy. You very funny. So you're so funny. So here's the thing. I'll put it up on the screen first. So this is not exactly it, but it's this is similar to a Klerksdorf. This is a solid concretion, and yet to the point, rocks are old, right? But as far as what this is a
what size is that?
I would say smaller than a croquet ball. I would say about tennis ball size.
Okay.
But this is a concretion, but it's from the area of South Africa of Klerksdorf. Klerksdorf spheres have rings in them, and they're, you know what those are? Because they are the oldest man-made object. Now, there's arguments that say it's
a concretion.
This is a concretion, which is allegedly, the geological way that it basically rocks for a period of time. Apparently it flew out of volcanoes. That's one way. And they would get really hard and they would turn into balls. Other ways concretions are made. They somehow through sand and through, I don't know what I got. Well, we'll figure it out. So what for everybody watching, this concretion, they can be found by rolling around in the sand, the deserts with water and assorted other things, mud, sun bakes them, and they're like sand snowballs, kind of. Otherwise, they're made by volcanoes, and they can be big. Some some can be 64 tons. They can be all sorts of sizes. They're all over the world. But some very much look man-made, and like the stone spheres of Costa Rica or Europe.
Would this happen over a time period? Could it happen overnight?
Yeah. So if it was a volcanic one, they're saying basically it could happen immediately within an event. If it's this is likely a ground concretion that was made by finding something, it was rolling around, it got baked, it turned into this probably over a much shorter amount of time, but it could be millions of years old, right? But the Klerksdorf spheres, where I went and I got to hold one. And so this is in that same area where they were the Klerksdorf. It's a place. It's in South Africa.
Did you personally find this?
Yes.
Concretion?
Yeah. This concretion I found, but there's a lot of them. But the Klerksdorf spheres they very much look like machine lines, 3 of them in there. And they are approximately 2.5 to 3 billion years old.
Wonderful.
So this thing is likely much, much older than the jawbone we have.
But unfortunately, it didn't get to breathe.
No, this bad boy.
Mastodon did.
Yeah, no.
So I should say living article.
Yeah. So the reason the Clerksorf spheres are interesting is they are man-made. They have a fibrous interior. They look like an ancient croquet ball. And the 3 lines, and there's no way it's not man-made. The thing is that they're constantly found in a mining area outside of Klerksdorf. That's why they call them Klerksdorf spheres. But they're definitely man-made, and they're definitely 2.5 to 3 billion years old.
How rare?
Though there's a lot of them. And they get, like, basically, I think it was Top Golf, which we don't get sponsored by, but that would be nice. Top Golf, I think they were just like, I think they had a field, and they just kicked them out. Somebody 3 billion years ago, they were just like, game's over, or the asteroid's coming. Or
did they use a driver on them?
Right. So there's this field of them. Clearly the field gets abandoned, or shop closes, or something happens, and then they keep mining up these Klerksdorf spheres, which again, they have a hard exterior, they have a soft interior, but many times in the same area, like this one has that. This is just it's busting off, the outer layer, and a lot of times, sometimes they're 2-layer. They almost look like they're an ice cream, a ball of ice cream that's been dipped.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's
and this
ice cream.
And yes, I do not have a real Klerksdorf spheres for any of those listening or watching. Of course, I would bring that to the museum, but just a normal rock concretion, I figured I was safer to I'll put it over there. I was safer to bring it back, but it was fascinating because
is that your only one, or do you have many?
No, I only borrowed the one.
Got it.
Which it's not. It was a good time. We were in Central Australia, or I'm sorry, South Africa. I was in Australia too, but that was for a different. There's other things there, but this was not too far. One of the things I went to go see was Adam's Calendar, which is
I'm not familiar.
It's a megalithic stoned. It looks like standing stone, so it looks like an even older Stonehenge, but there's no tops. There's just standing stones, but they're organized to enough star alignments to prove that basically the entire site could be 245 to 350,000 years old for this calendar.
Correct.
And it's right over about 3,500 foot as a really tall bluff, looking into the largest mining valley, the oldest mining valley in South Africa, where a massive, it's multiple miles in diameter, but the Sumerians dug there, Greater Zimbabwe. It's been mined literally since man could figure out where gold was. So it's really interesting that this calendar system isn't far from these. Well, again, billions of years is problematic to human history.
Right.
So if you have a man-made object, and again, the quantity of them that they keep pulling up clearly shows that there was a lot of them in this area, and they look gamey, when
they do.
But
I think if I recall, when you mentioned the word gamey, have you ever heard of in Colorado they have oysters? Have you ever had a Colorado oyster?
I believe
we're
gonna move away from the goats. Yeah. Let's move away from the goats.
Right.
But this is a
Rocky Mountain oyster.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Nope. No. That's just there's some things we don't need to eat. It's just it's not the apocalypse again.
Right.
And then I would argue maybe a soup with some herbs.
Certainly. Right.
Well, we could do that.
Yes.
But yeah. So I totally derailed. We're talking about oldest objects. Okay, when it comes to organic objects, the oldest objects I've had my hands on are some bones at in St. Paul. I think the oldest touched eye was probably a brontosaurus.
All right.
But I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know how old. I got to go to one of the labs, and this is when I was young. It was very inspiring, and I got to actually put my hands on it, which was great.
Right on.
So yeah, I don't know. What else? Okay. Besides this, because you're in possession of one.
Correct.
What's the oldest other bone system you own, have, or touched, but by somebody else personally?
Right now, this would be it.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, look, this one wins. The only other old thing I have, this might be, no, that's not. I have some things sitting behind us from the 1700s.
What's the oldest thing you ever smelled?
Oh, gross.
Not maybe, because it could be a good smell.
No. All I can think about is whatever's been left in the bottom of those urns and those, the things they find sunken, sealed, and
Yes.
off the coast of the
Right.
Mediterranean.
Got it.
I know they've re-engineered some wine and stuff from some crazy periods. Oh, I know they find honey
Right.
in Egypt and some other places. Honey never goes bad. You ever know? You know what mollified man is?
Please tell me.
All right. Okay. I got to see how many people are up for this. Here's the deal. Mollified man is an Egyptian thing where what they would do is, and there's an argument that says, and I don't know if it's been written, but they say that there was a couple different formats for this. One is you're probably poor and you need money, or you're dying, or you want to do this as a religious service. But what you would do is you would be started on a diet of honey.
Okay.
And eventually you would, you would only have honey. Eventually you would pass on. They would then basically put you in, they would encase you in honey, in you and out of you. And I'm assuming they drained out your blood, etc.
Like sarcophagus.
Yeah, a sarcophagus of some kind.
Something of that nature.
Yeah, so they would put you in with the honey and like a bottle of wine.
Were you alive?
Oh no, you're dead now.
Okay.
You've been eating honey until you finally pass away from just having honey. And you're, again, you could have been all sorts of ages and conditions. So then they would mollify you, which would mean that anywhere from 100 years to 1,000 years, the Egyptian empire is old. So the older, allegedly more powerful, right? So just like a bottle of wine.
Certainly.
Then after you've been in the honey for that long, they would take out your body and they would dice you up because your mollifiedness is worth cures for longevity, for whatever's wrong with you and whatever ails you.
So it's liquid or soft tissue.
Oh no, it's basically I bet they sold off the juice too.
Right.
That's graphic. But exactly that mollified man was diced up, confectionaried, honey, human.
Bone and all.
Well, at this point,
do they debone it?
I have a feeling that with that much
the mollified process, is that deboning?
I wonder, I don't know if it would gelatinize, if it would when they encase you in the honey, if that's the effect that it would finally end up with. But yeah, you would end up with this.
Never heard of mollified. Mummified, yes, but mollified.
Man.
What a life. We get to learn something every day, every second.
That's a treat that everyone should look into. I'm not saying try it. I'm not saying do it. And don't start it up again as a trend or a religion. Just don't. Just leave it alone. So, all right. I'm again derailed us. So as far as foods that never go bad or anything on the planet, I don't think other than honey, there is anything. I think it's it. It's just bees. It's just honey. That's it. Which is again blows my mind that you could eat it 1,000 years old. So you could smell something. Wait, you didn't answer the question. What's the oldest thing you smelled?
I'm gonna say great grandfather's boots.
Ah, gross.
Yeah.
That's just, no one should do that. That's a punishment. Why would you do that?
That was the punishment. I hopped on the train behind his house that was 30 yards away, and he said at 5 years old, don't get on that train. I did. That was the punishment.
And the train was going to leave?
Yep. It was, I was stopping at the grain elevator, and it was moving slowly, and I hopped it.
At 5?
7.
You're up for adventure.
Certainly.
So while we're looking at this thing, I'm going to turn it again quick. We have enough time. I want everybody to see this who's watching. We're going to move the Mastodon bone one more time, which in this case, I want to do, I don't know, front or back? Front? Maybe I'll hold it up.
Well, it's a nice shot there.
That is. Actually, I think I'm going to set it on the phone for a minute and hold it up here so people can see it. It's extremely strong, everyone. It's extremely heavy, but I got to hold it. I can't, there's no good way to prop this up. And I hope it's not moving too much for the camera, but it's definitely, like you said, there was one missing tooth. That's down here. This gives you a little bit better of scale for what you're looking at. Again, 10 to 15,000 years old, found in the river. The skull is still there. The tusks are still there, right? Did he see that?
No, all he saw was the top of the skull.
Dang it. I'm just get more and more excited. Like the story's going to change,
yes.
It's just awful. How long was it between him going there and coming and seeing it and then it disappearing?
Week. 1 week. Extremely disappointed, right?
After 10 to, I don't know, 15,000 years old, you don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it's kind of like, hey, the universe brings it in front of you and it's like, you found it. You should probably do something with it. There's a reason.
Correct.
Like now's the time. This thing is incredible. All right. So now I'm going to put this thing down because it's not fun to hold. It's way too heavy. So are you going to wait for the dating to come back?
Yes, that's correct. On the piece that's missing, this particular jawbone has already been certified to have soft tissue. It's not fully fossilized. That is 100% correct.
So the assumption is that it's young for
Correct.
what it is.
And the others, well, could be, but for it to be fully fossilized, it has to be underwater, complete water, underwater for a long period of time.
Mm. What about as far as anything indicating that age? I'm trying to decide the how to phrase the question to begin with. What is there some obvious way to determine the age of the actual creature?
What has been determined so far, 12 to 17,000 years old.
No, I mean, like, was it? Oh, that's how old it was when it died.
Yeah.
No, I meant no. How old do you think? Was it 50 years old, 30 years old, 20 years old? How old was
this one? According to what I've heard, according to the wear patterns on all the molars, it lived quite a life.
Yeah, it got really worn down teeth. Nobody messed with it. This
Right.
thing, and it is, man, if it's this heavy, I can't imagine
These
the muscle.
were razor sharp.
Were they?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. You can see they're worn and rounded off and smoothed out.
That would be terrifying. No. All right. So that's fascinating. So what, do they have any ideas how long mastodons lived in general?
I probably know at one point. It can be easily found out. I don't have that answer.
No, just curious. I mean, those aren't the things that we can have an answer to every time. I just think that it's fascinating to think about if this thing was there and it felt safe, or maybe it was running.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't doing good. Maybe the situation for it to die was, maybe it was attacked. Maybe there was I've been to the Galt Archaeological Site in Texas. It's outside of Austin, about 45 minutes. The Galt Archaeological Site is made up of basically tool manufacturing that they dug down 20 feet. They found a floor
right
to a building. They estimate the floor between 18 and 26,000 years old.
Amazing.
But that's within a site that's hundreds of acres, just the site that they were able to purchase and hold, these two archaeologists. You can tour it on appointment, or there are days that it's open. But the Galt site specifically also had it's one of the only ones in North America, a fully gelatinized mastodon skull that had gelatinized. Right. The whole skull was intact, right, but they had to let it dry. Somehow they got it to dry, but when they found it, it had clearly signs of being worked on by humans.
Right.
It wasn't saber tooth. It wasn't back then. It would have been the North American. It was a bear. Basically, would have made any kind of grizzly look like a tiny little baby puppy.
Right.
These things were terrifying. These are giant land sharks. And anyway, so if they had smelt blood, if this thing was on the ground, humans would not have had a ton of time before some of the apex predators of their day would have. So this thing could have easily been taken out by not only some weird giant apex creature, but what I like about it, what I liked about the Galt site, and that's not too far from here, because they found that the tool manufacturing, they're making arrowheads. But they were also using these, I want to say ladle, but they're the stick spears.
Yes.
So they would launch these spears, and we got to try it. And what blew my mind was that there are people who are hobbyists that use these. So you have a spear that's 4 to 6 feet long.
Correct.
And you have this launching stick, and it sits on you launch it off your shoulder. We got to practice doing it. We got it about 100 feet. Well, the ones
almost
that
as a wrist rocket type scenario.
Yeah, so it sits on your
sling.
Yeah, it's like a wood sling. So it's got a back. You set the spear in it. You set and you gotta aim. But this, the spear part is you want a bit longer, is what they think. And then you whip it. So you're holding on to the base, but the spear launches. And they were really wondering how accurate could it really be, right? Well, they had to test it out. They had some of the pros. Believe it or not, there's competitions for these. They had them. They were trying to cull a herd of there were some sick bison in this bison herd or buffalo or whatever they had. And this is again they were going to try this experiment. I think it was Texas. And they're like, okay, well, let's let this pro take a shot with and they had the rifle people standing by. They didn't want the animals to suffer or anything else. But they said, okay, how accurate can they get to a moving animal? Because this animal's an herbivore, but it's terrifying. And it's not one you want to mess with or walk up to. And I mean, elephants trample people to death, right? So there's been this theory about when they found the mastodon head, they said like humans could not kill a mastodon. It's just not possible. And so now it's like, what could they didn't have technology. Here they are. I think, again, I apologize. I think it's that ladle or whatever. They whip it and they're like, okay, how far out? And by the way, that's the other thing. How far out can they be accurate? They must have been 400 feet.
That's amazing. And
they shot this thing and they shot that buffalo. He got it through the shoulder in the heart on one throw.
Well, all about timing.
And well, here's the other thing. He whips that thing. That missile penetrated at least 3 feet into this animal from 400 feet. So you think any kind of a mastodon, you are not walking up to this creature.
No.
This thing is not anything to mess with. So if you got humans with that kind of projectile, it changed the game on perceiving what a mastodon would have survived or not survived when it came to human contact. And the reality is that it would not take more than 1 or 2 experts to maybe down it in one throw.
Right.
So,
and to your point, right here in Oklahoma, the mastodon existed.
Yeah.
Bison and the native tribes would run them off the cliffs.
Yeah.
That was one way. They needed food, they needed clothing, and that's sometimes the local tribe would run them off the cliff.
You got to wonder whether or not the mastodons actually like cared. Like, would they run off a cliff or not? Would they actually, follow everybody else, or would they just like move aside and not care who's coming what with a horse? It's like just zero interest. And again, it's like it's an herbivore, but it's so big and it's so strong. Would it really ever care about anything coming up to it with the sharpest teeth?
Very good point.
I think it just has to kick it. I don't think it has a step on it.
Right.
That's just
right.
Not a lot of worries.
Well, one of the ivory tusks will take care of it.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah.
Although they're pointed up.
But they can move down.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
They could gore.
They could very much gore.
It's
amazing. Yes.
It is crazy. We're barely talking about this, and we've already gotten into this for almost an hour. For everyone listening, this is our guest, Mark Sears, who's brought us this lovely mastodon bone that is probably 10 to 16, 15,000 years old to 10,000. It was found in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, in a river, almost downtown. It was found in the 90s. We are talking about it. We also have Michael Cremo's book release coming up. For those of you watching, that's going to be on the 2nd of July. We will be doing a webinar. You can buy the tickets. They're extremely affordable. Also, you can get his book before it goes on public sale. You'll be the first to get it, but it'll be on Extreme Human Antiquities for the tickets. But the site, RKEOX, we are hosting the Michael Cremo webinar. We are also doing a new podcast with Michael. You'll be looking for that July, August. And we will be doing, of course, our normal Wednesday nights. Christy is gone. She misses everybody, and we'll be back next week. We'll be doing our show live on Wednesdays. In the meantime, thank you, CKC Good Food Catering, Lightcom Inc., and Ascent Nutrition. We have some great sponsors. Things are going to keep expanding here at RKEOX. And as for the mastodon bone, for those that have joined us late, this mastodon bone is a rare find, extremely rare.
Yes, it is. And I appreciate the offer to come on board here, be an expert guest. No, I'm kidding.
Expert antiquarian.
Expert at curiosity.
You could just, okay, fine. Expert. This is the point of RKEOX. The X was for exploration. It was for expedition. It wasn't just supposed to be for those that think the obvious one is extreme. That this is the point. It's like when we're all out there. Very common, at least within archaeological circles or geologists, the Mississippi River in St. Paul, Minneapolis, because it goes through both downtowns. Correct. They're both on both sides. They have a lot of exposed. There are bones dinosaur bones. There are things sticking out of the river, of the side of the river, that you can just go look and you can find it. And so I think everyone, Jeff from UP and Upper Michigan, that area, you just have to get out every day and look, and you can find. I mean, not everyone's going to find a basically.
And if I was to speak for my dad today,
yeah,
next time I'll bring a flipping stick, and if you don't know what that is, you find a favorite stick, you shave it down to get the bark off of it, whatever size, maybe about 1 inch in diameter.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to get down on your hands and knees, and you flip your stick down the river.
Yeah.
And you just pop stuff up.
Man, it's I think that one of the things we were talking about is going out looking for the rest of the skull. I don't see why we shouldn't. Maybe it's been less than 15,000 years. I mean, it's only been 30. We kind of have you have a starting point, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So there
is a motive.
So it gets me thinking, because that's what we do in the field, whether it's Belize, Peru, or wherever we're going. I think it would be fascinating to maybe get one of those, there's a lot of fishermen now with some pretty complex sonar.
Correct. Yes, there is.
Why don't we why don't we take a look this summer, see if we can't find the rest of it? I'm
game. I'm in.
Cool.
Yep.
So for all you listening, this is when we decided to do this. It's, what are we on? It's still June, right? It's still June. We have decided to do this. We are doing June 25th. That's where we're at. We are making the decision to look for the rest of this skull. And gosh, I just want the tusks to be attached no matter what.
That'd be wonderful.
And no, right? It's priceless. We don't want to sell it.
Correct.
But if it survived this long in the, well, it was underwater. I was going to say the skull should still be in. What
was told, this is not fully fossilized, as I mentioned. This rolled down the river a long time and was exposed. It was never fully fossilized. Therefore, it was traveling for a while.
You got to wonder if the skull just kept moving.
Possibly, quite possibly.
All right, stay tuned, everyone. We are going to keep up with we're going to keep you updated with the search for the skull. You can find the big. What is it? What is Andrew saying? You can find the big tooth in Florida. So Florida. Okay. Yeah. Let's just do this one quick before. Let's see. So clearly, if they're tool manufacturing weapons to kill mastodons, among other things, in Galt near Austin, Texas, massive site. I'm not talking small. Right. All these weapons being made and produced, and in this era, they must have been strolling from Oklahoma up to Utah down to. I mean, if they're finding them in Florida, it's like just nuts, right?
Correct. Well, everything does go downhill, and it goes down to sea level.
Yeah. Is there any? I mean, as far as being a guest, thank you.
I absolutely appreciate the offer.
Yeah, and the next time, again, everyone, we are going to update you about any other thing that has to do with this Mastodon. Again, if we can find it and no one else, I think there's some bragging rights involved.
There could be.
At least, and of course, the purpose is history and bringing it back. And again, ArcheoX.com is hosting Michael Cremo's book release. Thank you, CKC Good Food Catering, Ascent Nutrition, and Lightcom. We are going to be back next week with Christy. Thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you next time.